Okay, I think we'll get started. So, hi everyone. Welcome to our first webinar in our Summer of Automation series with Prophix, why a smarter budgeting process is better for your business. A few housekeeping items before we get started. All mics are turned off for this webinar, so if you do have a question, please utilize the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen. I will be monitoring the chat throughout the presentation, but you can also ask towards the end as well. This webinar will be recorded and available afterwards along with the slides, so look out for that email and that information in the coming weeks. So my name is Sophia Pascuzzo. I am the Customer Marketing Associate here at RKL eSolutions. I'm joined by John Sabak, a Strategic Partner Manager at Prophix. John is a designated CPA who has been with Prophix for close to 8 years with prior experience working as an FP&A manager and in public and internal audit. If you don't know us already, RKL eSolutions holds several strategic relationships, with best-in-breed solutions to bring effective results to customer challenges. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to John to go over today's agenda.
Perfect. So thanks for the intro, Sophia. Here's just the agenda that's going to take us into the next 30 minutes or so. I'm going to give you a brief intro on Prophix. We'll talk about product-centric businesses and agile planning. We'll jump into a quick little mini demo, and then following that, we'll have a Q&A session as well. So just to give you the lay of the land and tell you a little bit about Prophix, the organization has been around since 1987, and we're laser focused on FPM, financial performance management. And that encompasses everything to do with budgeting, forecast, and reporting consolidations, along with data analytics as well. We're headquartered out of Toronto, Canada, and we have offices worldwide. In addition to that, we have an extensive partner network as well. So we work with great partners such as the RKL team. That has resulted in amassing over 3,500 customers in 100 different countries. The one thing that I would say that really sets Prophix apart from other FPM solutions that are out there really pertains to the partnerships and the seamless integrations that we have into ERP systems. So a primary one that we work with is Sage. We have a partnership with the Sage team. And what that allows us to do is integrate directly into that source system. And then we can actually go ahead and schedule the cadence of the actual import of that data. So it's one-stop, seamless. But in addition to that, what's neat about Prophix is that we can integrate to any other operational system as well. So a lot of our clients will go ahead and pull in information from their CRM system for pipeline data. Payroll systems is also a pretty common one to do labor forecasting. And once again, any other source system as well. Another thing that really sets Prophix apart from other vendors that are out there is our customer success approach. We really like to take that white glove approach throughout the entire process. So from the very first initial calls, what we like to do is gain an understanding of your pains and challenges that you experience. What we then go ahead and do is leverage that to put together a meaningful demonstration. And if you decide to go with Prophix, once again, that experience will carry through even the implementation and then the post implementation as well. You actually have the option to have a dedicated customer success manager assigned to your account, in which case you can actually go ahead and reach out to them at any point in time throughout the year. From an analyst standpoint, we're highly regarded as the #1 or top FPM solution in the market. You'll notice that I've included a couple different logos at the bottom of this slide. The two that I like to spike out are Trust Radius and G2 Crowd. Those are essentially sites that you could go on use that end users will go ahead and provide. It allows them to give them that candid feedback on what they like about the application. And then lastly, from an ease of use standpoint, the entire product has been built by finance for finance. So you'll notice as we go through the actual demo, there is absolutely no coding, no programming language that's required. Everything that you're going to actually do within the software is done via drag and drop or through a nice end user interface. So, little fun fact here. Anyone care to take a guess at what this stat is referring to? Just going to give you a couple seconds here to think about it. Well, according to CFOdive.com, the financial toll of inefficient FP&A data processes cost U.S. companies $7.8 billion a year. This number stems from research that calculated that $6.1 billion was spent on labor hours from low-value data management. And you could think of this as searching, pulling, exporting, formatting, manipulating, correcting errors within templates or report, which is really being performed by highly skilled and high-value employees. Another $1.7 billion was attributed to lost innovation by having those same skill set employees busy doing low value work. So from a challenge perspective, I have conversations with customers and product prospects daily, and there is a pretty common theme that every single organization that's out there is dealing with their fair share of challenges. Whether you're in the manufacturing space, whether you're in higher ed, senior living, healthcare, not-for-profit, every single organization out there is dealing with different types of challenges. For those of you that are in the manufacturing space, you're probably well aware of the supply chain issues, having to deal with workforce uncertainty, increased your cost of goods sold, which obviously impacts your profitability, along with, as of recently, the rising interest rates as well. For people that are in healthcare and senior living, over the past couple of years since the pandemic, there's obviously been an increase in personal protective equipment and that expense on the overall business. And then also from a labor standpoint, having to go ahead and hire skilled laborers. So once again, this is a pretty common challenge that a lot of organizations are going through. And what makes it even more challenging is the fact that a lot of the budgeting, planning, and analytics is all done for a lot of people in Excel. And in addition to that, they're having to deal with extracting data from multiple source systems, right? So you may have information that resides within your ERP system, you have a separate CRM system, payroll system, but all that information, once again, is in these separate systems, and you're trying to actually leverage Excel to its full potential by pulling that all into Excel workbooks. From a strategic standpoint, what strategic FP&A isn't one individual that has all that information all in their head that's sitting in an office putting in values and numbers into a spreadsheet template or a model or some budgeting tool. What strategic FP&A is really collaborating and driving accountability across the entire organization. So people are, companies that are successful at that will actually reach out to key stakeholders within the organization to gather their inputs. And that could be people on the operations side of things. So for example, think of reaching out to your supply chain, your demand team, having them look through inventory levels. On the sales and marketing side, reaching out to the sales and marketing team to talk about competitive intel, pricing, discounts. But at the end of the day, that's essentially what drives strategic FP&A. It's that collaboration where multiple people can actually contribute to the overall well-being and health of the organization. And the outcomes can be pretty substantial. So for example, intelligent and data-driven planning, cross-functional communications, and having everybody within the organization on the same page, driving accountability. So if you're reaching out to stakeholders to provide you inputs, holding them accountable as to why they're favorable or unfavorable on a monthly basis. And then this in turn helps to drive informed decision-making and allows them also to be agile. So, if you have that up-to-date and relevant information, it allows you to go ahead and take it one step further to do all that what-if scenario modeling as well. So giving you the opportunity to play around with different levers and model out different assumptions on the fly. The role of, the modern day CFO has transitioned as well. So if you think about the role of a traditional CFO, they're really focused on the financial statements and account balances and account reconciliation, the so-called, I guess that's where the term bean counter came from. But what the role of a modern CFO now is one that's really taking on more responsibility, becoming sort of the strategy within the organization, really trying to get the most out of their employees by upskilling them. So having them do or look into multiple areas within the business, trying to drive forward the business from a digital transformation standpoint. So anything that's being done, manually, looking for a tech solution out there that can actually remove some of that heavy lifting. And then overall improving the accuracy and communication between departmental stakeholders within the organization, and really becoming that true financial partner and advisor to the business. So I like this little visual. It's a great depiction of how an ERP system and an FPM system should coexist with one another. When we think of hindsight, the best way to think about that is exactly what your ERP system's doing. It's essentially tracking all of your individual transactions. So whether that be hourly, daily, weekly, quarterly, monthly, annually, essentially, once again, that's taking care of the operational side of the businesses and housing all that transactional level detail. What organizations will go ahead and do that is leverage that data from an insight standpoint. And when you think about insights, you could think of this as, producing your financial statements off of the information that resides within your ERP system, right? Where there seems to be a bit of a gap comes to the foresight. And that's really where Prophix comes into play to bridge that gap. So when you think about foresight, it's really providing that forward-looking projection. So what we do is, as a solution, Prophix integrates directly into Sage, for example. We schedule the cadence of that import. Could be done overnight, could be done a couple times throughout the day. Once that information is within Prophix, you can actually do all of your planning and reporting directly out of that solution. So now you can take a look at things from a forward-looking lens. You can model out different assumptions on the fly, but allows you to be a lot more strategic in essence by being able to have all that information within one central repository. So this is what we do. Prophix enables you to automate the management cycle of consolidations, reporting, analytics, modeling, and planning. And here's just, once again, another nice little visual that I like to share with my audience. This is very common. This is what we hear day in, day out. For a lot of organizations that are leveraging Excel, what they're doing is they're pulling in data from source systems. And once again, this could be an ERP system, could be your CRM system, could be your payroll system. And, usually what starts off as a pretty easy process involves a couple of key stakeholders. But over time, what's actually pretty common is that additional source systems get added, right? Additional individuals are added to the overall process, and things start to break down. So it's very common to hear that a lot of organizations have these massive Excel files or massive Excel workbooks where, when they go ahead and open them up, it takes a couple of minutes just due to the sheer size of the data that's dumped into that particular file. And in addition to that, obviously, there's a security component that's somewhat of an issue. You don't want people taking a look at, portions of the data. You have broken links, you have reference errors, but really doesn't have to be that way. And this is where Prophix comes into play. At its core, there's really five key pillars within Prophix, and I've broken them out. You could see under the planning and budgeting section, a lot of our customers leverage Prophix in a number of different ways. Okay, you could do expense planning, personnel planning, operational planning, sales and revenue, project planning, cash and balance sheet planning. And in addition to that, you can actually do forecasting as well. So a forecast now within Prophix is just another version where you're combining data that's being pulled out from, say, Sage, and combining that with budget or forecast to provide that forward-looking projection. So you could do a quarterly forecast, you could do a monthly, you could do a rolling, you could do a 13-week, totally up to you in terms of the level of detail that you want to get down into. On the reporting side of things, there's reporting and analytics as well. So you could leverage Prophix for financial statements, performance report, ad hoc. Any type of reporting can be done directly within the solution. In addition to that, a lot of our customers will go ahead and create what we call report binders, right? So you can include all the different content into an overall package. In addition to that, consolidation. So if you're an organization that's dealing with multi-entity, multi-company, you can actually go ahead and do all the consolidated reporting directly within Prophix. We can do currency conversion. If you have a multi-entity structure where you're dealing with minority interest, investment, that all can be done within the solution as well. And then from an automation standpoint, Once again, we can actually automate the entire import process. We integrate directly into your source system. We schedule the cadence of the refresh. And then a lot of our customers leverage Prophix from a workflow standpoint as well. So you can actually go ahead and wrap workflow around your annual budget process, your monthly close, your forecasting, and let Prophix be the one responsible for sending out templates or reports to key stakeholders. So in essence, how FPM can help your organization is it allows you to move away from the constraints of Excel. It allows you to wrap governance and control for cyclical planning processes. It enables that, what I've been mentioning, company-wide collaboration. And at the end of the day, it's going to become that single source of truth for you, right? So you have all of your data that resides within one source system now, rather than within Excel spreadsheets. Okay, so if you have, I believe you have a couple poll questions you want to go ahead and throw up here.
Yep, we're launching them now.
And I believe there's another one, right?
Yes, there is. So we'll end that one. And there are the results.
100%.
And then we'll launch the next one. So we have a couple different answers for this one.
Okay, pretty even split. All right, so without further ado, let's actually go ahead and jump into the demo. So bear with me 1 sec. I'm going to go ahead and change screens here. And just going to give it a sec. I want to make sure that it's displayed on your end here. But my main goal really for the next 15 minutes or so is really just to walk you through a day in the life of a Prophix user. As you can see, Prophix is a web-based tool. So in terms of gaining access, you can leverage any of your favorite web browsers. So Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Safari, all pretty common ones. From the end user standpoint, when a user logs in, the very first thing that you would see is your own dashboard. So when we integrate directly into your source system, so think of this as Sage, maybe you're leveraging a CRM system, payroll system, you might have an inventory management system or a POS system. We have the ability to go ahead and surface all that data within these nice, easy to use dashboards. So, so you could track revenue, you could track capital expenditures, take a look at operating expenses. If there's specific KPIs and metrics that you want to keep a close eye on, once again, you could actually go ahead and track that all within these easy to use dashboards here. What users really like about the dashboards is that they're fully interactive. So for example, let's say you're taking a look at operating expenses. And what's pretty common for a lot of organizations before they do any sort of planning or forecasting is they want to get an understanding of what's going on within their department, their company, the entity. And this is where they can actually analyze their data rather easily. So for example, taking a look at operating expenses, we can see that we have some pressure coming from our operations department. And what's pretty neat, we could click anywhere on this little visual and Prophix will drill down into the departments that make up our operations group here. Okay, from here we could see majority of the pressures coming from our manufacturing team. And what's really neat is that we could take things one step further, right? It's just telling us that actuals came in higher than what was budgeted. Here as a user, you can right click, select the little link, and Prophix will go ahead and display any type of report that's linked to that particular visual. So in terms of look and feel, that is totally up to your organization. The benefit of actually being able to report within Prophix is that when you come up with that one look and feel in terms of the template style, the report style, it could then be utilized across the entire organization. So you'll notice that we have these drop downs on the left-hand side here. You'll notice I could come in, select another department, select the month. And as I go ahead and do so, Prophix is going to go ahead and render the data that's associated with our selection here. So this really allows you to sort of set it and forget it. You create those reports that one time, and that's usually done during the implementation with the RKL team. And then if you ever add in a new department, new entity, new company, the reports are dynamic. So it'll actually go ahead and allow you to report without having to go ahead and create or format a total separate report for that new addition. Any of these reports, if you ever need to export them out, you can easily do so by going to the top and selecting your preferred format. But in addition to that, if you ever want to further analyze your data, so let's pretend we're taking a look, you notice that we have, about $20,000 worth of pressure coming from travel. What's actually really neat, off of any report within Prophix, you can right click, select analyze, and Prophix will go ahead and strip away the formatting of the report and bring you into our ad hoc environment. The best way to describe ad hoc is that it's similar to that of a pivot table. However, end users don't have to worry about now extracting data out of Sage. No need to worry about dropping it into Excel. There's no pivot tables, VLOOKUPs, HLOOKUPs that you need to go ahead and worry about. In this case, if we want to drill down into our travel variance, we would simply hit the little plus icon. And this is where Prophix will go ahead and drill down into your tree structure for you. Okay, super easy. This is really why Prophix has such quick and high user adoption, because as mentioned, there's absolutely no coding, no need for end users to know Excel syntax or anything along those means. In this case, our next logical question might be, what department, what entity is driving this variance? And this is where, as a user, we can come over here to the left-hand side, grab any of these items, drop it into the canvas, and Prophix will swap the two out. Okay, let's say we want to take a look at our actuals at the monthly level. We could drop months within the columns. Prophix will swap the two. Then we could utilize the drop downs as pick list and toggle between the different members. So once again, super easy. If you want to apply conditional formatting, simply go to edit, select condition, hit add exception. And rather than having to go ahead and create a rule or some form of logic, you can leverage this pick list. So let's say we want to see balances greater than $18,500, and maybe we want that to be highlighted in red. So there you go. Really easy, really intuitive. You could always toggle back. And this is where Prophix becomes super powerful in terms of the integration directly into Sage. Once you've narrowed down or identified exactly where your variance is coming from, this is where we could take things one step further. As a user, you could simply right-click, select drill across, and Prophix will surface the underlying transaction that actually makes up that balance. So you'll notice I've pulled in the account, the department, the month, the value. Obviously, we would work with your team to identify what data within your environment you want to pull into Prophix. And keep in mind, all this could be filtered on as well. And then you could even include documents or images, I should say. So if you have invoices, receipts, purchase orders that are in a system that's able to go ahead and generate the URL, we can actually include the hyperlink within our drill across to allow you to get down to that level of detail without ever leaving Prophix. Okay, so this is great for organizations that want to get people within the company more involved, have them to be self-sufficient. This is really providing them with that structured approach to being able to analyze their data on their own. They log in, they have their own dashboard set up, tracking that specific information relative to their role. It's fully interactive. They can drill up, drill down. If that doesn't answer their question, you could point them in the direction of a formal style report, right? If that still doesn't help them, once again, by the third click of their mouse, they can actually be down to the transactional level detail. So let's close out of here real quick. And for those that are really in tune with their data, and let's say they've logged in right out of the gate, they could see that something isn't looking right from their manufacturing department. They have this variance that they didn't anticipate. They could be a single click away. So this is what executives love, being able to answer questions on the fly. Once again, they could filter on this data, and you can even pull up any sort of type of image. So really easy now to be able to surface that information. For a lot of organizations, this is a big pain point. This is a sticking point for them in the sense that, keep in mind, they're pulling in data from multiple source systems to try to bridge what's going on within the business to what's actually happening within, the financials. Now, being able to go ahead and leverage all that data within one central location allows the entire business all within one view. And then from a dashboarding standpoint, last thing here before we switch gears and get into planning, is that it's pretty common for a lot of organizations to go ahead and create separate dashboards for different groups of users. So you may have a VP or a C-level view. You may have a separate dashboard set up for the FP&A department, and then a total separate dashboard for your budget owners, which is simplified. And the best part is that security blankets the entire application. So you could create these standardized dashboards, roll them out to all those end users, and they will only be able to see the information that their security permissions allows them to do so. Right. So from a maintenance standpoint, if you want to add a new chart, new KPI, new metric, you're doing so in one dashboard and it propagates all the way down to your end users. Now, let's switch gears. Let's talk about the planning aspect within Prophix here. So as mentioned, what a lot of organizations are trying to do from a strategic standpoint is drive collaboration and accountability. Now, rather than having to go ahead and create a template in an Excel file, attach it to Outlook, fire it off to the end recipient, within Prophix, you can actually leverage the workflow functionality. So within the left-hand side here, you'll notice a section called My Tasks. And that's where, as a user, when you log in, you'd be able to identify anything that has been assigned to you, which you're responsible for completing. Okay, so some budget owners may have one task, some may have a handful. It all depends in terms of how involved they are with the overall process. What's pretty cool is that they could click on the three dots, and Prophix will pull up this screen where they could take a look at what they have on the go. Anything that they miss will show up within the overdue section. And as they go ahead and complete items, they'll actually show up on the right-hand side here. So it becomes that one stop for them. You know, no more need to worry about filtering through their inbox and going through emails. All they would do is click on the actual task, and Prophix will pull up the template that they're required to fill out. Okay, from a look and feel standpoint, I always stress this is totally up to your organization. You know, you can include logos, you could select a particular font, colors. But when it comes to OpEx planning, it's pretty common to have a template set up similar to the one that I have here, where you have your accounts within the rows, your time within the columns. So if you're planning at the monthly level, it'd be months. If your organization plans quarterly, it could be quarters. Or if you just want to plan at the annual level, you could even just have columns for the years as well. And if I scroll over, you'll notice I can include my prior year actuals, my September outlook as a jump off point. I place the columns at the back. You could place them at the front. That is totally up to you. Now, inputs are extremely straightforward. Users could come in, enter in values directly into the cells. They could adjust data on bulk if they want to. So you could select specific accounts for a group of months. And if you want to go ahead and adjust it, you can right click. You'll notice that there's a prompt that'll appear asking you how you'd like to do so. Here you could come in, you could add it, make adjustments by percentages or by absolute amounts if you want to. And then you would just go ahead and hit OK. You can leverage Excel syntax. So for those that are familiar with Excel, all the Excel functionality can be leveraged within the templates themselves. Better yet, let's say I'm not too concerned about profiling at the individual level. I know that I'm going to spend $150,000 on office expenses because everybody's back in the office. I could enter in that one value. As soon as I do so, Prophix is smart enough to realize I've entered in a value for the entire year, and it'll ask me how I want to push it down to the monthly level here. So a number of different options, spread evenly, pretty straightforward. Spread based on existing. So Prophix has a unique capability of respecting the data that's already in that template, and it'll go ahead and then proportionally update it based on that new value that the owner has placed within the total column. Where Prophix gets extremely powerful is that we could come into the show more section, and this is where end users can actually come up with their own spread methodology. So for example, maybe we want our expenses to reflect that of our revenue. We can actually come in and select a particular revenue account to spread that information. Okay. Maybe we want to base it off of some statistical driver. So this is the nice part about Prophix is that not only can we import financial information, but we could also leverage statistical data as it relates to, say, FT, headcount, square footage, units produced, utilization rates, throughput, for example. And then you could select an account. You could select a version. Maybe you want to base it off of the seasonality that's associated with your actuals. You could come in, select the actual version. And then you could even go ahead and select time. So we all know the past 3 years have been a pretty big anomaly. And if you anticipate business going back to, what you would so-called call normal back in 2018, you could even leverage the time as well. So select a year, a version, an account, And this is the beauty about Prophix, is that this is nothing that needs to be coded or scripted. All it's doing at the end of the day is taking a look at the underpinning data that resides within your model within Prophix. Okay, this is very, very different than other solutions that are out there, in the sense that this would be something that would need to be programmed or coded, or there might be a formula that is hidden somewhere within the template providing this driver-based spread functionality. So within Prophix, it's inherent just due to the fact that it all resides within the way you set up your model.
Hey, John?
Yeah.
We do actually have a question, and I want to get to it before, it's if you need to demonstrate it, but can we lock for editing when the fiscal year budget is approved?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So once it's approved, you can lock it down, and then therefore users can't make any changes or adds to it.
Okay, thank you.
Great question. Then also from an input standpoint, real quick, for some accounts, you may want your end users to provide additional details. There's little blue triangles in the lower corner of our advertising account. And what that signifies is that I can't just enter in a value directly into that cell. There's this prompt that'll appear. Prophix will pull up this separate schedule where now you can force your end user to provide you with a description, justification. There's even a section for additional commentary and notes as well. So you can make this mandatory for some accounts, optional for others, totally up to you in terms of where you want to turn it on and off. But the beauty about Prophix is that those details actually follow those values throughout the entire product. So you could be in an input template, you could be in ad hoc analysis, you could be in a variance report. You never lose visibility into what made up your budget values. And then comments as well. You could place comments. Within cells, Prophix puts out a little red flag in the upper right-hand corner. If you want to add additional comments, you could simply right-click, provide a comment. If there's any support, there's a little paperclip you can attach. And then Prophix will log the name of the individual, the comment. It's also date stamped. Then real quick, the payroll section, probably the biggest expense to any organization is the labor portion. I'm going to jump back out to my workflow. I'm going to click on personnel planning task. And this is where, once again, we have the ability to integrate directly into your payroll or your HRIS system. So this could be ADP that we extract data from, Paylocity, AltiPro. But what we would do is pull it into a personnel model within Prophix. And then we would go ahead and create a schedule similar to the one that I have here. So we can include the employee ID, the name of the individual, their hire date, end date. If your company has a multi-entity structure, you could take into account their entity, their department, and then we get into all their payroll-related attributes as well, right? Those different attributes drive your calculations as they will relate to things such as earnings, benefits, increases, taxes. And if you notice, if I expand on them, they're actually broken down to the monthly level. So we'll accommodate any type of payroll cycle that you're on. Some customers on weekly, some are monthly, some on a 544 calendar. Those are just different attributes that we take into account. But what's really nice about centralizing your data is that you can make adjustments at the macro level and have it pertain to all employees. Or if you want to do it at the named level, you simply select the employee, right-click, head edit employee member, and this is where Prophix will pull up their individual details. So for example, if Shar gets promoted, you could come in, change your title, you could adjust their compensation. If your organization offers various types of benefit packages for health, dental, vision, retirement match, that all can be taken into account. For a lot of our customers, they have employees that reside within different states or provinces. Once again, we could even take into consideration the applicable tax rate to actually calculate the tax expense as well. And then lastly, before we switch gears, allocations. So if you have, an individual that spends time and you want to plan down to the different departments or cost centers or, entities that they roll up to, you could actually go ahead and allocate now a portion of their earnings to those different departments based off of a percentage. And if it's only for a duration of time, think of this as a maternity leave coverage or long-term disability coverage. You can actually set the start and end date, and Prophix will go ahead and take that into account as well. So this is all wrapped into the workflow as discussed before. So let's say I'm responsible for the initial pass. Sophia, you might be the approver. All I would do is hit submit. You'd receive an email with a link to this template. You could come in, you could approve it, you could reject it, and you can even provide back and forth commentary as well. Okay. And then once you're satisfied with it, all you do is hit the little update icon, and Prophix will feed this information now at the summary level back into our main financial model. So if we come back out, all we got to do is hit the little arrows, and now you'll notice that the data appears in its respective GL accounts. So users love Prophix in the sense that there's no linking at tabs, spreadsheets, or workbooks together. You'll notice if I go ahead and select, operations, it's going to roll up the values from manufacturing, quality, and maintenance into that one consolidated view. If you ever want to do a top level adjustment, let's say you anticipated for that entire department to spend $50,000 on office expenses, you could come in, enter in that value into the total operation level. And once again, Prophix will ask you how you like to go ahead and spread that down to the department now. So you could create your own, you could select from one of the defaults, and Prophix will go ahead and update that template accordingly. The one thing I do want to spike out is that what we do during the actual design and discovery phase is that's where the team would look at your hierarchies as they would relate to your org structure, your departmental structure, your cost center structure. And that's essentially the way they would set it up within Prophix to provide this inherent capability to aggregate and drill down on your data like we've been walking you through here. All right, so if I go ahead and select maintenance, we should see about 16K now allocated to maintenance, and same thing for quality and manufacturing as well. And for those of you that are worried about audit history, what's actually really neat, within the cell, you can actually click at the cell level and Prophix will track the date and time, the name of the individual, how the value changed within the cell. And if you spread data, it actually tells you the spread logic that was utilized as well. So you have complete cell audit history built into the tool. And then lastly, from a versioning standpoint, we know it's never one and done. Usually organizations go through a couple different iterations. So you could complete your original budget. You might have scenario A where you model out some assumptions, scenario B, scenario C. Once again, totally up to you in terms of what you name it as well. You may want to call it budget version 1, budget version 2, budget version 3, right? But what's super powerful is if you ever want to analyze your versions side by side off of any of these templates, keep in mind you could jump back into ad hoc here. And this is where you can actually stack your versions side by side to take a look at what changed and where. Okay. So once you come up with the plan that you want to go with, as mentioned, you can lock it down. But from a strategic standpoint, what a lot of organizations are trying to do is become more agile in terms of the frequency and in terms of frequency when it comes to planning and being able to combine content such as actuals along with budget or forecast data. So as mentioned previously, a forecast now within Prophix is just another version where what we're doing is we're leveraging actuals, which are being fed into Prophix from Sage directly. They become locked down, so your end users can't make any changes or edits to it. Where they would be able to is, once again, where I've shaded the cells in yellow. This could be any color you would want. You could leave it white, but that's where they could come in. They could enter in new values. They could adjust data in bulk. They could even do those top level spreads as well. Okay, and then same concept. You have your drop downs you could utilize as pick lists. You know, the nice part about Prophix is from a modeling standpoint, here's version 2, for example. You'll notice that it's blank. If we take a look at version 3, it's blank as well. The one feature that every single one of our customers has relied upon heavily over the past, I'd say, couple of years, especially as they've been trying to navigate the ever so challenging environment that they're working in, is the fact that you can run what-if processes within Prophix. And to set them up is extremely easy to do so. So in the version 2, we're going to go ahead and increase OpEx by 3%. And version 3, we're going to go ahead and decrease it by 5%. So we're sort of leveraging base case, best case, and worst case. And to go ahead and set this up is extremely easy to do so. Essentially, all you're doing is telling Prophix what data you want to go ahead and make the adjustment to. This is where you'd have your chart of accounts, right? You could come in, you could select a group of accounts, you could select individual accounts, you could select them all, which is what I've done, okay? You could come in and select the departments, the cost centers, the entities that you want to have this apply to. Once again, it could be one, it could be a group, it could be all of them. In this case, I've selected all cost centers. And then what you would do is go into data transformation. And this is where you're telling Prophix how you want to adjust that data. So as you can see, you can increase or decrease by percentages. You could do so by absolute amounts. You could even multiply and divide your data as well. So super, super easy. In this one, we're increasing it by 3%. And once again, just taking a look at the other one, the only difference is when we come to the data transformation option, we're decreasing this by 5%. So we can close out of here, come back out, and just hit the little refresh. And just like that, you'll notice that within seconds, Prophix has created, these two new versions for us where we've modeled out different assumptions. So this is usually the feature that a lot of our customers tells us that this gives them their nights and weekends back. Once again, if somebody comes to them last minute on a Friday afternoon and says, hey, listen, we want to see what happens if we decrease labor by 3%, or if we increase marketing expense by 2%. This is a quick and easy way to go ahead and do so on the fly. And then once again, if they ever want to compare and contrast them, you could always jump back into ad hoc here and stack all those versions side by side to take a look at what changed and where. Okay. So with that, one last thing that I want to show you. So we've touched upon OpEx, we touched upon personnel, we looked at forecasting. A lot of organizations will leverage Prophix from a revenue or sales planning standpoint as well. What we would do is the team that's working with you would set up a model to capture the respective business logic. Within Prophix, you'll notice now you can plan by customer rather than doing it by department. You could roll it up into a region. Within the template itself, you could actually plan down to the product category level. Some customers, depending upon how detailed they want to get, plan down to the SKU. But we could factor in quantity, along with the average selling price. If you have a supply chain team, this section could be sent out to them to have them fill in sort of the demand component. And then the selling price could be sent off to sales team. But once again, you can leverage the workflow functionality to drive that collaboration across the entire organization to be able to gather those inputs in order to go ahead and put together a meaningful plan. So that's on the budget side. I do have the forecast version of that as well. And really, the only difference here is the fact that we're pulling in information, potentially from your CRM system or pricing system rather than the ERP. And then keep in mind from a forecasting standpoint, we're always combining actuals, which are being fed in, which are locked down, with the ability to go ahead and do those remaining forward-looking projections. All right. I feel like I'm going a mile a minute here. Hopefully that came across rather clearly. And then just a couple of slides to wrap things up here. Really, when it comes to success with RKL and Prophix, goes back to what Sophia had mentioned. You're really working with the best in breed in terms of RKL being a top-notch advisory firm. And then from a FPM or financial performance management solution, Prophix is the mid-market leader when it comes to FP&A. Just a couple of things here with regards to some of the customers that we've worked on joint projects with. John Templeton, Skills, Community Life, Picture Start, Yakima, Nova Health was one that just signed not too long ago. And that's pretty much it. I believe we have some time for questions here. I can't see any questions on my side, but Sophia, you might have them pop up on your side.
Yep, we have a few coming in now. So my organization has multiple entities and we need to do consolidate reporting. Can Prophix be used as a consolidation tool?
Yeah, great question. So absolutely. So that's one of the core key pillars within Prophix is the consolidation functionality. A lot of our customers that have operations, across the globe are dealing with a multi-entity into account adjusting entries, elimination entries, ownership assumptions, that all could be handled within Prophix. And then the nice part about centralizing that is that you could take a look at it from the total corporate level, or you can actually report down to the actual individual company or entity level. Good question.
Great, thanks. And we kind of have a similar question. So there has been talks in their company to move from annual planning to something more frequent, like a rolling forecast. Can you create rolling forecasts in Prophix?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of organizations are actually moving from the traditional annual budgeting process to that rolling forecast concept. And really the reason being is because for a lot of organizations, there's a lot of effort that goes into putting together their annual plan. And, 2 months into the new year, What was planned originally is no longer relevant. So what they're doing is actually combining actuals that are fed directly in from Sage into Prophix and doing that rolling forecast, whether they're looking at 13, 15, 18, 24 months, that is totally up to them.
Great. And how long does a typical implementation take?
Yeah, so the nice thing about Prophix is that when it comes to implementation, we talk in terms of days, not months. If you want to go ahead and be able to do financial planning, reporting, personnel planning, and maybe some revenue planning, that'd probably be anywhere between 25, right around 20 to 25 days, depending upon the complexity.
Awesome. And we have one more as of right now. Prophix looks really easy to use. Do end users need to know or be good at Excel?
No, that's the biggest benefit of Prophix, is a sense that there is absolutely no programming, no coding. You don't need to know any Excel syntax. As you saw during the demonstration, everything is done via drag drop and straight up keyboard input. So absolutely no coding, no programming. And really that speaks to the reason why Prophix has such a fanatical customer base and such quick user adoption, is a sense that, there's nothing to it at the end of the day, and you can actually extend the product into other areas within the organization, given the fact that there is no technical expertise that's required.
Great, thanks. So I'm going to pause just for a couple seconds. If anybody has any last minute questions, please put them in the chat now. But if you want to learn more about Prophix, please contact your customer success manager. If you don't know who that is or don't have one, you can also contact us at marketing@rklesolutions.com. And it looks like we don't have any more questions. So with that, I want to thank you all again. Thank you, John, and for attending today's webinar. Next in the summer series is X3 Cloud Docs with automation in the finance office. And that'll be next, or 2 weeks from now, Wednesday, May 31st at 1 p.m. Eastern. And we hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.